Welcome on into today's video where I want to go over the primary results in the state of Florida for August 28th, 2018. So this video, I'm going to talk specifically about the state of Florida, and then later tonight when we get those results in from Arizona, I'll make a separate video discussing those races. So the structure of this video is first, I'm going to take a look at the statewide races. Then after that, going to look more closely at the competitive House districts, so the ones that there's actually a chance at either the Democrats or Republicans pulling out the victory. And then I'm going to wrap things up by taking a look at how the progressives did across the board. There's 4 Justice Democrat candidates and 1 Our Revolution candidate that I want to go over. And even though the Justice Democrats didn't do so well coming up short in those races, a lot of those were coming against either incumbents or establishment-backed candidates. They knew it was going to be an uphill battle for them. But all in all, I think it's still a good sign for the progressives overall, and we're going to touch on that here to start things off with this governor primary and the Democrats' side. So Andrew Gillum, an Our Revolution candidate, and I just want to take a deep dive specifically into the primary on the Democrat side, and then also just holistically, this race between the Democrats and Republicans. So starting off here on the Democrat side, it looks like Andrew Gillum is likely to go on and win this. We're at almost 86% of the vote, and he's ahead by almost about 2%, which calculates to a little under 30,000 votes in total. And the reason why I think Gillum is probably going to win, I'd almost put it at 100% at this point, because a lot of the vote that hasn't come in comes from Broward County, which is a very healthy area for Gillum in terms of the votes that he's been able to get. So as that Broward County vote, which is only at 41% now, very populous area, continues to come in, I'd expect Gillum to only build on the lead that he's been able to build. And the fact that Gillum, when he opened up the night, he was down by over 10 percentage points. He was able to continuously close that gap, and now he's in the lead. It just seems like the momentum of people voting on the day of election in comparison to the mail-in ballots are also in general tending to be in his favor, which is pushing him into the lead right now. But the reason why this is such a monumental victory for the progressive movement is I want to go over to the polling data. This is over from Real Clear Politics. You can see the Democratic primary, and you have all these different candidates. Graham was always the front runner since the beginning. She's a very moderate, centrist establishment type Democrat, and she had a lot of that support behind her. But then you had Gillum, an insurgency campaign, the progressive movement coming behind him down the stretch. You can see overall with the polls here, not even that long ago, these polls were taken within the past month or so, and you can see he's in 4th place with an average of 12% of the vote. Bernie Sanders came down and stumped for him. I think that had a big effect. It was pretty much Gillum kind of being the Bernie Sanders type candidate here in Florida, Graham more of the Hillary Clinton type of Democrat in this matchup. And it just goes to show you that Bernie Sanders message is resonating with people. It was able to get Gillum over the finish line, down the stretch, a big insurgency, as he looks like he's going to go ahead and grab this victory. So just the fact that he was so far down, had so many baked-in disadvantages until that progressive movement came behind him, it's a pretty impressive run there for Gillum to go on and win the Democratic primary. Now, he's going to be taking on Ron DeSantis, who is in this Republican primary, the guy that went full force behind in support of Donald Trump. So what's so exciting to me right now about the state of Florida is we're going to kind of get a glimpse potentially into 2020 with Ron DeSantis, who's more of the Trump-style Republican, against Andrew Gillum, the Democrat, who's more in Bernie Sanders' image, and having that dynamic play out within the state of Florida because, of course, as we all know, in 2016, Hillary Clinton coming up short against Donald Trump within the state of Florida after Obama had won at the 2 prior election cycles, a very competitive state that almost always seems to be right about a 50-50 margin in these elections. Can't wait to see how this one plays out, because if Gillum is able to beat DeSantis, it's something that the progressive can say, see, we showed you that instead of running the centrist establishment Democrat, a progressive was able to have success in a statewide election in Florida, and would go to show that Bernie Sanders might be a good candidate to put up there in 2020. But if Gillum comes up well short of DeSantis, then you could make the counter argument to that, obviously, as well. So just right now, with 86% of the vote on the Democrat side, we're at about 1.4 million, and we have about 86, a little bit less than 86% of the vote on the Republican side, but about the same in terms of the precincts reporting. We have about 1.5 million, but again, the fact that Broward County still has a lot of vote outstanding, I'd expect this margin here between the Democrats and Republicans to probably shrink a bit, and at the end of the day, when 100% of the votes have been counted, I wouldn't be surprised if it was right at about a 50-50 split here between the two sides. And if Democrats can ever run about a split 50-50 in the primaries, that's generally a good sign for them, because in primary voting, it tends to be an older demographic, and older demographics tend to go more so for Republicans. So to get more enthusiasm and turnout on the Democrats in the primary is typically a good sign. So we'll see how that closes out here throughout the rest of the night. Now I want to move on to the Senate results, and of course, incumbent Bill Nelson. He's going to go ahead and win this one, running unopposed as that incumbent on the Democrat side. And then on the Republican side, Rick Scott, not a big surprise here, absolutely running away with things. The governor of the state of Florida for the Republicans, deciding that he's going to try to take this Senate seat. And this is one of the Senate seats that the Republicans actually have a decent shot at potentially picking up away from the Democrats. Now, on the flip side of that, there's a number of Republican-held Senate seats that it looks like Democrats might be able to flip. But on the other side of that, there are as well a number of Democrat seats that are in the crosshairs of the Republicans. So just as a quick overview, the Democrats going after and thinking that they could potentially flip Senate seats over in the states of Nevada, Arizona, potentially Tennessee and Texas. And then on the flip side of that, the Republicans feel like they have a decent shot at getting states like North Dakota, Missouri, maybe West Virginia, although I think Manchin probably holds on over there in West Virginia, but also a state like Florida right in the mix along with those states like Indiana, Missouri, and North Dakota, where the Republicans are trying to get things back. And this is going to be a really close election, just like on the governor's side. At this point, I could see it potentially going either way. Can't wait to see how that one plays out. So now that I went over the statewide election results, I want to touch on the competitive House districts. So starting off here, going down to Florida's 6th congressional district, and Nancy Soderberg going on and winning with over 55% of the vote. And then on the Republican side, not sure why they haven't called it yet, but it does look like Michael Waltz is going to go ahead and pick that one up. And Republican turnout here with basically all the precincts in, considerably better than on the Democrat side. So this is listed as a likely Republican seat, and you can see here the Republicans getting almost about 20,000 more votes on their side, which is a good sign for them as they head towards the November midterm elections. Now moving on to Florida's 7th congressional district. This one is listed as a likely Democrat seat because they're going to have that incumbency advantage. And then this is also a Justice Democrat, Chardo Richardson, going against the incumbent establishment candidate. And this was going to be an uphill battle, of course, and you can see that was the case here for the progressive candidate, coming up well short against the candidate that has that incumbency advantage, name recognition, money advantage, all of the above. So on the Democrat side, about 56,000 votes, as well on the Republican side, about 56,000 votes. So very competitive there. This one, like I said, whenever you get the vote about the same in a primary, that's generally a better sign for the Democrats. They do have the incumbency advantage, and this one is listed as a likely Democrat situation, but we'll see how that one plays out come November. All right, moving down to Florida's 8th congressional district, we have a Justice Democrat progressive candidate here in Sanjay Patel. He ran unopposed. Going to be a big uphill battle for him going against a Republican incumbent, Bill Posey, in that one. And when you get these ones where it's going to be a big uphill battle for a Democratic candidate, that's the ones where the progressive candidates, oftentimes they won't necessarily have to run against an opponent because the establishment Democrats don't feel it's worth putting in the resources to try to even contest the seat in the general election. So now moving on here to the next one, we have Florida's 15th congressional district. And on the Democrat side, it looks like Kristen Carlson's going to go on and win this one with over 50% of the vote. And on the Republican side, Ross Spano going on and looking like he's going to win this one as well. And the Republicans right now sitting at about 15,000 more votes than the Democrats. And this one is a lean Republican district. And then moving on down to Florida's 16th congressional district, this one is listed as a likely Republican. They have the incumbency advantage with Vern Buchanan. And then on the Democrat side, decent turnout here, over 62,000 votes cast, and David Shapiro is going to go ahead and take this one for the Democrats. And now moving on to Florida's 18th congressional district. This one's listed as likely Republican, just like the 16th congressional district was. And this one is unfortunate for the progressives. Pam Keith, a great candidate there, a veteran, but coming up short against Lauren Baer, who is a candidate that I don't personally know a whole lot about in terms of her policies. So maybe she has progressive policies as well. But this one, like I said, is listed as likely Republican, having to go against the incumbent Brian Mast, who ran away with things on the Republican side. And not too much of a gap. I guess 14,000 votes in a congressional district, you consider that somewhat of a decent gap between the two sides. Come the general election, probably going to be a bit closer between both sides. We'll see how that one plays out. And then moving on down to Florida's 25th congressional district. Unfortunately, we don't have a vote total on either side. This one's listed as a lean Republican. They have the incumbency advantage. And sometimes you get that lean just because you have that incumbency advantage. So this is likely to be highly competitive. Looking forward to seeing how that one plays out. And going down to Florida's 26th congressional district, which is also a lean Republican, having that incumbency advantage. Very close vote here. The Democrats at a little over 32,000. The Republicans a little bit under 35,000. So again, we'll keep our eye on that one. And then moving down to wrap things up here with Florida's 27th congressional district, which had a lot of people on both sides here. So on the Democrat side, this is listed as a lean Democrat seat. You have a little over 43,000 votes. On the Republican side, a little over 38,000 votes. Maria Salazar is going to go ahead, and it looks like going to be facing Donna Shalala. And also in terms of Florida's 27th congressional district, there was a Justice Democrat, Michael Hepburn, not doing all that well there, finishing in last place. But again, the Democrats, a 5,000 vote lead in the primary, and it is listed as lean Democratic. So that's going to wrap up this video, guys, going through all of the competitive House districts, going over how the progressive candidates did, as well as how those statewide elections shaped up. And as I'm making this video here, Andrew Gillum now listed as the winner here on the final projection. So that is a really exciting result there for the Bernie Sanders movement. The Our Revolution candidate, Andrew Gillum, 4th place in the polls, even over the past month of polls that were taken, surging down the stretch, getting that boost from the progressive groups and Bernie Sanders coming down and helping him out as well. Looks like it's going to go ahead and make the difference there for Gillum. So this is actually kind of a similar situation to what we had, or what I thought was going to happen in Michigan with that governor's race. Abdul El Sayed getting the push from the progressives down the stretch, Bernie Sanders coming and supporting him as well. That didn't end up being the case, as Abdul El Sayed came up well short against the established Democrat candidate Whitmer. But the reverse is happening here within the state of Florida. And what also makes that really impressive is the fact that Florida, it's a very large population state. So getting that kind of movement, you need tons of support and votes. And you're seeing Gillum get that, almost about 500,000 votes right now behind his side in what was a pretty competitive 3-way race between the top 3 candidates. So again, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for stopping on in. Subscribe for more, and I hope to see you back here for the Arizona primary discussion video.